Okay, I've got 7 o'clock. So welcome to the Advisory Plan Commission meeting of 8/17/20. I'm going to make sure we have a quorum. Mary Lou McFadden? Are you on? Yep, I see you, Mary Lou. You're here.
It took.
Unmute yourself. There you go. Gotcha. Okay.
I was sorry.
I'm here.
Well, to get in.
Meyer, I think I saw your name.
Here, yep.
Kathleen Beeler. No Kathleen. Nita Remages, I know you're here.
Yes.
Mike Gorman, I saw you. And Seth McCormick, up. I think I'm just admitting him now. So we've got 6 of 7 at this point. Let's do the Pledge of Allegiance again real quick. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Flag of
The
the
United States of
America
and to the
to the
republic
republic for which it
which
stands,
stands
one nation,
under God,
indivisible.
indivisible, with liberty
liberty and justice for all.
for all.
All right. Do I hear a motion to approve the minutes from the meeting of 6/16/20? I think they were sent out.
I make a motion to approve the minutes.
Do I hear a second?
I second it, Mary Lou.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. I heard 3.
Hey, Bob, this is Mike Gorman. I'm just joining the meeting now. Sorry if you've already taken it.
I'm sorry. Do you? Yeah, we had you.
Yes.
I saw you on there. I just didn't hear you.
All right. Go ahead. Thank
So I
you.
need one of you to vote to approve the minutes, either Nick or Mike.
Yep, I approve. Yep,
Okay. So
Nick.
minutes are approved.
Wait, which did we just approve?
The minutes of 6/16/20. I think they were sent out.
I've got 6/10/20, and then I have, which was the special meeting, and then 6/29 was the public hearing.
Okay, you're right. I've got 6/10.
Right, 6/16. I'm sorry, I wasn't.
I got you 6/10 and 6/29. Is that what you had?
So I have 6/10 and 6/29. The meeting of 6/15 was
You're right.
canceled.
I'm sorry. That was my mistake. All right. Do I hear a motion to approve both of those minutes?
A motion to approve June 10th and June 29th, Anita Remages.
All right. Do I hear a second?
I second it, Mary Lou.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. They were approved. Committee reports, next step 24. I think we just dealt with that at town council. And basically the town council agreed to move forward with that, with alternate A2.
That's
And
it.
I don't think-
Yeah, I'll let Jeff. I can let Jeff know. Well, he was on the phone, so he here. So okay.
Be good. I have no old business. I have no public hearings. New business. I have a petition from a homeowner to change the address of 2965 Lakeshore Drive to 2965 Ridge Road. I've spoken with the police chief. He has no problems with that. A lot of those homes down there are difficult to find, especially if they have Lakeshore Drive addresses, because they're set so far back from Lakeshore Drive, and they're much closer to Ridge Road.
Bob, can I ask who the homeowner is? Is it Rule?
You know what? I'm not sure. I know I spoke to him, but I don't remember what his name was.
I just wondered if it was Bob Rule, because we'll have to change it on the water side.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't know the
That's
name. but I'm
okay.
sure we
I'll
can-
look it up and let you know.
Okay, sounds
Okay.
good. Do I hear a motion to approve?
I make a motion to approve.
Do I hear a second?
Second, this is Nick.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, I'll make sure we tell Bill. All right, next agenda item is proposed amendment to the shoreline protection ordinance. This was my fault. I put this forward, and I've had an epiphany. And I would like to not change the language. Let me find it.
Will you say that again? Don't change what?
I want
He's
to-
talking, he's in the middle of his sentence looking
Yeah,
for.
I'm sorry.
He didn't finish
So-
his sentence.
We had a part of that on the second page of what you've received, talked about natural ordinary high water mark and stated that the DNR has determined that the foot of an existing seawall on a property constitutes the natural ordinary high water mark on the subject property. I would like to not recommend that at this time. I'd like to keep that in my back pocket because I think we may have to go to that at some point, but I think at this point, the town would be remiss if we did that. The other changes, I, however, do not apologize for and would like to recommend those. I've spoken with the building commissioner and he agrees that these changes would probably make our ordinance more user-friendly, both by the town and by people requesting shoreline protection structures. One of which is the change of the definition of a coastal engineer. Our old ordinance referred to certified coastal engineers. In fact, the state of Indiana does not have certified coastal engineers. Indiana does not, Michigan does, Illinois does, Wisconsin do. We have a list of just 3 certified coastal engineers that people who want to make changes or want to build shoreline protection structures can now use. One of them is called Edgewater. I have been somewhat less than impressed by Edgewater's work and frankly was thinking about removing them from the list. However, our list only consists of 3 certified coastal engineers, the other 2 of which can't get to do any work for anybody within 6 months. They're all too busy. Therefore, I think we need to look at loosening up the criteria for coastal engineers to submit their ideas for coastal protection structures. This also would make it easier for the town to hire coastal engineers. And actually, one of the parts of this ordinance is if we don't like what the coastal engineer is saying, the town, i.e. the building commission, has the right to, at the homeowner's expense, hire our own coastal engineer to give us an opinion. To me, this makes a lot of sense. My other concern with the way the ordinance is now written is that if this shoreline protection structure or shoreline protection ordinance is viewed as too difficult for homeowners and people requesting permits to use, the powers that be downstate are liable to punish us in the next legislative session. I think this gets us around that to some extent. Again, I think this is a shoreline protection ordinance. It's not a punish the lakefront homeowners ordinance. So I'd like to recommend that change. And then
Bob, can I ask a quick question?
Yeah,
What is
let's
the
talk about that
time
one.
frame-
Yep.
What's the time frame for if the town wants to get their own review, their own coastal engineer report? Is there a time frame that we have to get that? Did I miss?
The only time frame is if it's an emergency situation, then we're under the gun. Otherwise, not.
Okay.
And then the other change on here on the same page, on a lot without an existing seawall, new seawall may only be installed between a revetment and a principal use
Hey,
structure.
Bob, you taking any more comments on
Oh,
that?
absolutely. Yeah, let's discuss that one completely. Yep.
The applicant for a permit comes forward with a coastal engineer's name as part of that application. Would that be how it works?
Yes, and that coastal engineer has to have experience with Great Lakes coastal protection structures.
Okay, so he comes forward with that application and it's got the engineer in there. At what point does the town, you said the town can opt to hire its own coastal protection engineer who would be paid for by the applicant? At what point does that happen? Do we have to trump them and say, no, we want to use this engineer? Or do you wait to see what their engineer says and then we say, now you have to hire and pay for a second engineer?
That is exactly how it works, yes.
So we have the ability to put the burden on the applicant to pay for two engineers.
That is true.
Okay, interesting, thank you.
Yeah, that's what's in the ordinance now.
Yeah, no, I know, but you're bringing up now, making a point. So it just seems to me, the applicant comes forward with an engineer, they provide their report, and the building commission can just say, nah, I don't like it.
That's correct.
Get another engineer.
Yep.
No standards, no nothing, just, we don't like it. I mean, I kind of like that, but I'm just concerned about.
Well, every situation is different. And so I don't know that there's any standard way you can, that's the problem.
If you've been advised by counsel that this is okay, I'm just concerned that.
Well, I understand this has been in there since day one, and much like a good portion of this, things have changed in practice. And so the theory behind the town including that language was so that the town had the ability, if somebody was just getting hired, to regurgitate what the homeowner needed, right, versus what was so. And so if something seemed off. So your point on standards, I think in practice, well, one, I don't think this has happened to date. So one issue, maybe you consider whether this is going to be in here, because presumably we have 3 right now, right? So again, the thought process behind it was to allow the town to have a check and balance against buying, and that's presuming an engineer would, and I don't mean to insinuate that. It's just going to say whatever his customer or client or her customer or client needed. So your point isn't lost in raising the question. I think in practice, as this thing has been applied, maybe that gets revisited, maybe it doesn't. That's your purview. But the town has not enacted that or selected that option at all.
Despite Bob's comment that he says he or the building commission, I'm not sure which, has been, I don't remember what your word was, disappointed or whatever in the work being performed by one of the coastal engineers.
That is correct. And in way of explanation, the last building permit, so it was the last one that was worked on by this particular company, they certified to the building commission that the seawall at 3108 Lakeshore Drive, the one that runs parallel to the shore, was in fact intact and fine and didn't need any work. Within a month, they had a permit request in front of the DNR to put a revetment lakeward of that perfectly fine seawall. Makes me think that that perfectly fine seawall wasn't so perfectly fine. So to me, that was the last straw with that particular company.
So under the agreement, you could have at that point opted to hire another engineer.
Yes, we could.
But the building commission didn't at that point.
We did not, no.
Okay, I'm just trying to understand the process.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and I think this would, this change would allow us to do that, because given the fact that our list only had 3 and 2 of the 3 couldn't get to anybody within 6 months, we need to make that option more available.
Bob, it's Anita. What happened with I kind of remember, but what happened with the request to the DNR when that 3108 requested the revetment?
So far, the DNR has not granted that, although, they're still working on it. We're hopeful that they won't grant that, and I have every expectation that they won't.
Okay. Have you thought, is the building commission theoretically waiting for the DNR to make a ruling and then possibly they could opt to get another coastal engineer? Or is the idea that it would be 6 months before we can get another one and we're hoping the DNR will not approve the permit request?
At this point, we're hoping it won't be, if the DNR says that they can do it, by any definition of the natural ordinary high water mark, that revetment is below the natural ordinary high water mark and really not in our jurisdiction.
Okay.
This is Seth McCormick. I want to make sure that tilde CLW, who is on the call, was Chris Willoughby. He was speaking. Is that you, Chris?
It is, yeah.
Okay, great. I just want to make sure. So my only kind of comments to the change in the coastal engineer definition is that we need to be sure that the coastal engineer has experience in coastal projects along the Great Lakes, because I think that differs entirely from other navigable waters. I also want to make the distinction between the coastal engineer and the delineation expert, because those are entirely different fields. And I don't want to like conflate the definition of a coastal engineer with a delineation expert. So I think we make clear that we have a coastal engineer who's providing advice on the engineering related to the seawall, and then we have a separate person or the same person who is qualified to delineate where the ordinary high water mark is, right? Because they're different. So I want to make sure that we have provisions in the ordinance that make that very, very clear.
Yeah, I think the existing ordinance does. I think that's in the existing ordinance. I don't think it's in all caps or anything, but I think it does make that distinction.
I agree. I just want to make sure that it's either brought to the building commission's attention that this is necessary, or we need to make it very clear in the statute by changing the definition of delineation consultant, making that capital D and capital C, and coastal engineer capital C and capital E, so that the building commission has guidance on these are two separate things and one is not necessarily the other.
Yes, I agree.
Okay.
Any other comments on that change? All right, the next change is at the bottom of that page, if your pages are done the same way mine are, and it's under 154.203, and it's under 3, and it says, on a lot without an existing seawall, a new seawall may only be installed between a revetment and the principal use structure. So our original ordinance just said a new seawall may only be installed between a revetment and principal use structure. Our ordinance also says that existing seawalls can be replaced. So if we don't put on a lot without an existing seawall, that new seawall replacing the old one would have to have a revetment put out into Lake Michigan to put it in the same spot. I don't think that's what we want to do. Understand? Do I need to clarify that, or does everybody understand?
I'm thinking.
Mike Gorman here.
Yep.
I mean, when I read this, I immediately flipped over to what you're referring to, which is 206, which is the exception provision. So if someone has a seawall, they go over to 206 and it's an exception, right?
Okay.
So
Yeah.
I think that covers somebody who has a seawall. So I don't want to open any doors here to anything I'm not able to consider at the moment. So I would not agree with making this change to this section.
I'll buy that. That sounds reasonable to me. I missed that was in the exception section, but I think you're right. If it's in the exception section, we don't need to repeat it here. And then the other change is on the following page, chapter 154, section 203. It's under the heading 3, and then there's 3. And it says all required pre-post construction elevations shall be current. And we had within 30 days, given the fact that the building commission meets every 30 days, that seems a bit unreasonable to me. And I think we can increase that to 60 days without really watering down our ordinance. Any concerns about that?
Not on my part.
Good. Then the next paragraph. All required authorizations and permits for heavy access equipment to properties within the coastal zone shall be obtained from the town, Army Corps of Engineers, and Indiana DNR prior to access within the coastal zone and public trust lands. And I don't know if, my concern here is that our old ordinance said that they needed to have DNR and Army Corps permission to bring any kind of heavy construction equipment into the coastal zone, what we describe as the coastal zone. If they're above the natural ordinary high water mark, they really shouldn't need permission from the DNR or from the Army Corps. That should be simply from the town. Now, if they want to access, bring that equipment in via the beach or whatever, then yes, they have to go to the Army Corps, they have to go to the DNR, and they have to go to the town. So I just wanted to clarify that so that it was clear that they didn't need DNR or Army Corps permission if they're staying above the natural ordinary water mark with that heavy equipment. And this was just regarding the access permit.
So could you clarify if that's the intent of what you're trying to accomplish? I mean, would it be simpler just to, you could, rather than naming each entity, just say by the appropriate jurisdictional authority?
Yeah, well, and I think that's what Chris did. I tried to spell it out, saying, what I just said. And Chris, the modification Chris made, I think, makes that clear. He says,
and I feel like it already says that, all applicable, meaning, but in discussion with Dr. LeMay in this short change, the attempt is to be clearer, right? To try to speak in English. So I think all applicable.
Yeah, applicable helps.
And that's as it reads now. But then as we change it, it says all required, and then it sets out, I guess, the location. And again, this is really just an attempt to help the public.
yeah, and we did add the thing about and public trust lands to make that distinction between above the natural ordinary watermark and below the natural ordinary watermark. We just had a case this last week at 1704, I believe, where a homeowner had permission to remove a septic tank and to remove a ramp that were laying down on the beach. That homeowner had Pavey Engineering come in with their heavy equipment, access the beach through the neighbor's property, drive down onto the beach, and then up, destroying their dune, all supposedly so they could take out this ramp and the septic tank, which of course had nothing to do with what they did in terms of destroying the dune. They had no permit for access. They had no permit for destroying the dune. All they had was permission to remove the septic tank and the ramp. They are now being fined daily until they restore that dune to the way it was. I think it's time we throw the book at these people, because I don't think there's a greater affront to this community than someone destroying our dunes. It's just inexcusable to me. So that's the other change. Any other comments on that one?
I mean, I'm just a little unclear on how this helps. I mean, I agree with the sentiment, and I agree with kind kind of the notion that like if an authorization or permit is required, you need to go to the appropriate jurisdiction. I just don't. I'm not entirely sure how this language changes much, except for the addition of the and or the public trust lands. But then you kind of still need the addition of comma all applicable as applicable.
Yeah.
My point being is like I feel like the language needs to be incredibly clear, not like murky or clear.
So, Chris, maybe we could spell it out more similar to what I gave you, where basically, I kind of spelled it out as to the fact that they didn't need to have DNR or Army Corps permit, access permit, if they were above the natural ordinary watermark. Yeah, your thought is that we should spell that out more, Seth, is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. I mean, I can't imagine a situation where somebody is going to be doing something along, on their, along the lakeshore where they're doing some repair or, construction that is, beyond the dune or on the dune, that where they're not going to need permission from all these people or like all of these entities. But I don't feel like this makes it all that much more clear. I think it needs to be crystally spelled out that if you are going to intrude on any of these, the public trust or Long Beach land, then you need to explicitly have a permit and authorization from these entities, and you need to provide them directly to the town so we know that you're in compliance.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't feel like that's really clear from this.
So, Chris, could we maybe spell that out? Maybe similar to what I gave you originally. Would that work?
The language you gave originally, and correct me if I'm wrong, is it says if you need them, if you're going to encroach on the public trust, then you need to, and if you're not, then you don't.
That's
Is
correct.
that the language you guys want? Is that what you're saying, Seth?
That's not at all what I'm saying. I mean,
I just want to make sure you guys are on the same page because I didn't interpret that same way, and it's. I don't know. I think it's clear as it is, and so from there, if you want to make it, I'm all for always writing in simpler language so that the average person who doesn't deal with these or have never seen them can understand them to the extent we can. Right. So again, this is discussion for you guys, so that if you're inclined, obviously, the next step for this is to have public hearing so that you can then take action and go from there. So.
Again, remember, Seth, this is just the permit to access with heavy equipment. This isn't the permit to build your seawall, build your revetment.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of feel like this could be, maybe I'm overriding this, but so any required authorization for equipment onto A, coastal zone, which is Long Beach land, or B, public trust lands, which is adjacent land that is owned by the public trust, shall be obtained from the town or the Corps of Engineers or the IDNR prior to the access or operation of that heavy equipment within the coastal zone or the public trust lands. Maybe, but yeah, I break it down, I guess it's okay. It's a very long and complicated sentence, but I guess it's necessary. But I'd add and I know you just took out all applicable, but I'd add as applicable to the end of the and or the public trust lands, comma, as applicable, and copies provided to the town. Because you don't necessarily need permits from everybody. You need permits where it's required, right?
Yes, that's the point.
Okay.
So
I just don't want the statutory construction of this to be like somehow ruled not comprehensible, but I think it's okay. As long as we add something that, because the way I read it the first time is you have to get permission from the town and the Army Corps of Engineers and the IDNR, but that's not the case. It's only if it's required from those places, right?
correct. Yeah, that's all I was trying to get across there.
Okay.
But Seth, I think that's a good act. I think if you're leaving in all required at the beginning, I like where you put as applicable. I mean, it kind of reiterates again that it's what's required and as applicable. It's what needs to be done.
Good. Okay.
Okay.
So, Chris, you got those changes made now? You've got that understand what kind of changes we're suggesting?
I need that. I'm typing along. I just need that where the as applicable is going.
After and or the public trust lands, comma, as applicable, comma, and copies of all such permits or approvals.
Yep, I'm there. That is one long sentence, Seth. You're right.
Yeah. All right. Do we need to vote on these individual changes?
Can I ask a question, Bob?
Yep.
I'm okay with the wording the way it's ending up, but when a homeowner of Lake Shore property comes to the town and seeks a permit for heavy equipment access, you require a delineation of the property, right?
The delineation, for them to consider the permit, we need a delineation.
Yes, so the building commission would not act on this unless the homeowner also provides a delineation.
That is, yes, that's the way it's supposed to work.
That's just a point of clarity. Thank you.
Yep. So I don't think at this point we necessarily need to make a motion to approve these because we're going to let Chris come back with some changes and deal with those changes at next month's meeting.
Don't you have one more change on the last?
Where am I missing?
I don't know. This is your document.
I only see the ones that I've talked
I
about.
don't think so.
Well, I got a page 5, or am I? This was sent to me by Bob. Chapter 154, sections 205.4 and 8A shall be amended and restated as follows.
Those were as is.
Well, but it doesn't say that. It says shall be amended and restated as follows.
Oh.
I think that's the existing from the prior.
Well, then it shouldn't be. If that's the case, that shouldn't be here. I mean, I'm confused. I'm looking at this and it's English tells me there's something amended and restated here.
I don't have the page that you're talking about, so I'm not sure.
It's
Where
right
you're at.
below what we were talking about, Bob, what you sent out to us with the changes.
Bob, those
It's just number
subsections
4.
are changes. Those sections are changes. The applicant,
No, it's the same.
No, I think the point is that there was an original document
Yeah.
that was amended and approved and is
Right.
currently law.
Yes.
And now we're proposing and read the current amendments.
Right.
So in other words, like we didn't rewrite the whole ordinance previously after we amended it.
And this doesn't belong here. I mean, it's just confusing as,
Right.
I mean.
Well, it's the original document that we're amending, right?
No, you're not. You're amending the shore protection ordinance, which is 15 pages long or whatever. This is an amendment. This, in essence, is the third amendment to the shore protection ordinance.
This is an amendment to an amendment. That's correct.
Well, I'll let Chris sort out the legalese. That's not the way.
so my bigger question, to that point, Dr. LeMay, you're saying that I'm going to make changes and bring them back next month. So is your intention that you're going to see a clean version of your proposed ordinance to amend? And if that's the case, are there any other changes or anybody? The reason I bring this up is each time we do this, this isn't a simple process.
Yeah.
Painstaking
For you guys, timing wise, notices, public hearing, those kinds of things. So
Frankly, what I'd like to see is basically the original ordinance as it was passed, together with all amendments, and they can be in separate documents. And then the proposed final revisions to this amendment. That way we can kind of see the history of the changes, and we can see the current changes and how they apply to the original document and the history of the documents, and not in 6 or 7 separate emails in one kind of package.
Yeah,
Is that what Bob sent out? Is that, Bob, you sent out the original SPO, the original shoreline protection ordinance,
right. With
And then
the
you sent
and the
out-
amendments.
and then you sent out the First Amendment, and then you sent out the Second Amendment?
Yeah, that's correct. And this is amendment to the
I
Second
think
Amendment.
what we want from Chris is a restated shore
Wow.
protection ordinance, which includes all the amendments. It's
Okay.
called a restated agreement, if I'm not incorrect, Chris.
Yeah, I agree with Mike too. We want to see, I frankly want to see the history of all changes,
Yes.
the current proposed changes, and a
Restated document.
restated, amended and restated document. Or
Yes, that's exactly right.
proposed amended and restated document. I agree with Mike. That way we can read the whole thing in full, because especially when you change a defined term, it could change everything in the entire ordinance. So if we could see how the document flows from recitals to conclusion, with all of the amendments that have been passed and proposed, it would make it much easier for us to make a decision and streamline this conversation.
Thank you,
So,
Mike.
Chris-
Thank you, Seth.
Yep. So Chris, I know that's going to be a chore because it's 3 documents that need to be melded into one.
I don't think that's a huge undertaking, though. I mean, that really is just providing a red line version for all of you, because all of the changes aren't that substantial.
Okay. All right. So we can have that from you before the next meeting. Is that right, Chris?
Yes.
Okay. Sounds good. All right. So I don't think we necessarily need a motion. I think we have a plan. And there's no action to be taken except to have Chris do that and bring it back to next month's meeting. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So unless somebody else has something else, I think we can open up to public comments.
Hey, Bob, this is Nick. We can wait till after public comment. I just do have a temperature gauge question for the commission here, but I can wait till after the public comment.
Okay. I just hit the wrong button. Whoa. Uh-oh, I just canceled that. About lost you all there. That wasn't good. Okay. Now, anybody who wants to make a public comment, raise your hand. Seeing none, go ahead, Nick.
I'm curious. We just had a prior session about sewers, and I've heard some feedback. Although it didn't come up in the prior session. It's come up just kind of in one-off conversations with residents about some underlying concern around. Okay, if we allow for sewers, does that then allow for over construction, over development, over building? We have in chapter 154, we have a minimum lot size that you can build on. We have a maximum height. There's certain things that we've done with the codes over the last several years. I'm just curious what this commission's thought, interest, desire to perhaps institute a maximum building structure. I don't have any flavor or feel for what that would even be. I don't know that I could pinpoint, there's maybe some pinpoint houses you could probably point to in the community, but, I think obviously in the comprehensive plan, some of the feedback we heard is the fact that there is a diverse house stock and, that it's not, Malibu and, that there is some diversity within. And I think just, while I welcome our folks that come in from out of town and out of state, I'm technically a transplant, I guess. I guess for me personally, I wouldn't want to see, and this would be long term, but are we well thought, forward thinking to try to put something in around a maximum structure? I'm just curious what the commission's thoughts are.
I've asked Larry Wall to maybe give us some recommendation on what he thinks, what kind of square footage number would be reasonable. I don't know that we're necessarily going to do that, but I think getting a number and we could kick that around. We do have ordinances that say minimum size of the house. We also say minimum lot size. We do have an ordinance that says if somebody combines two houses or two lots, that the setback is not 6 feet, but 12 feet on Lakeshore Drive. If you combine three, it's 18 feet, not 6 feet. Of course, we also have percent lot coverage. But I still think that does maybe give room to a maximum house size and maybe something we ought to consider. So I've asked Larry to come up with some numbers, to kick some numbers around and see. And it's not just on Lakeshore Drive. We've got issues inland too, where we've got some huge houses. And I don't think we want to become what Duneland seems to be turning into, where on their hillside of their Lakeshore Drive, they've got some houses that are gargantuan. And I'm not sure we want our Lakeshore Drive to turn into that. So that's my thoughts. Open it up to anybody else.
Yeah. No, Nick, I agree with you. I agree with your concern. I think, both maximum lot size and minimum lot size are important. Another thing that you'll see trending in more popular coastal communities is that once kind of the price point hits a certain level, that there'll be a push for condominium style, especially if you have like a very large structure. People will start pushing for changes to the condo ordinance, where they want to take a one bedroom, 6,000 square foot house, or not a one bedroom, a one single family residential 6,000 square foot house, and change it into condos that they sell for 3 times the price that are 2,000 square feet. And I'm just using that by example for future planning. Because I know that when the space becomes the commodity and the access to the lake becomes a commodity, the people will start to do things. So I think putting some sort of plan in place that eliminates that kind of thought and also gives like a maximum and minimum lot size and structure size is a very good idea. I support that entirely.
Yeah, there is already an existing ordinance that says only one family to a residence.
No, I agree with that, and I know that, but it doesn't mean that there won't be a push to change it. And I think we were all blindsided by the current state of affairs with how much like the beach owners own or the lakefront owners own in terms of the beach, but we don't want to get blindsided by something else by not being prepared and maybe looking into what other communities have done to make sure that their condo ordinance is in place to protect us from the backside of something we're not expecting. I just think the research is probably a good idea. But it's probably years, if not 20 years down the future. But I'm just bringing up in support of Nick's thought that we need to make sure that everything is shored up in the proper way.
Let me just comment. Nick's point is a good point. We may, if I'm thinking of it correctly, we may already be covered on that. We have lot coverage. Mm-hmm. So you have maximum lot coverage, you have maximum height, and whatever square footage that produces, it produces.
Yeah, but what if somebody buys 4 lots, 5 lots? I mean, you could get that, right? And you could build a 10,000 square foot home, right? I mean, conceivably, if you meet the setbacks and the height, it could be huge.
As long as it's within 35%, yes, you could, whatever that would be.
Yeah. I don't know what the calculation would be. Yeah, I don't know.
You're taking it to a different level, which is appropriate. I'm looking at one lot, which is 12,000 square foot in R1 and in 6,000 in R2. Yep. No, your point's right. I wasn't thinking of it in the terms of multi-lots.
It's a bit of an extreme. Yeah.
No, it's a good point. But Bob, if you're having Larry Wall do work, if we're just talking about a lot, we're already covered.
No, we're talking about multiple lots.
Okay, yeah, that wasn't clear to me.
I'm sorry.
There's also like what Nick is getting at, I think, is like there's the concept of merger. Like 4 adjacent lots become one lot, right?
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, people have done
grasping at like, 2L law school, but I know if you have several adjacent lots, they all merge together into one, and then we're in a fight we don't want to fight if we can prevent it.
Good.
Okay.
Any other comments? All right, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion for Nick.
Do I hear a second?
Seconded by Seth.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Good night, everybody.